Hello. We are the most free society in history, yet we are more confused than ever about what it means to be a woman. I know it's a lot to digest, but we need to talk about why. This discussion is for educational purposes, exploring the philosophical and historical tensions between the traditional role of women and the modern trajectory of Western feminism. For a long time, the discourse surrounding the woman's place has been framed as a binary. Either she is a vestige of a patriarchal past, or she is a revolutionary breaking the chains of domesticity. But to understand how we got here, we have to look past the slogans and dive into the philosophical and theological foundations that built the Western framework. Let's start with a bit of a history lesson. Many people assume that the Western view of women has always been a linear path of oppression, but that ignores the radical shift introduced by Christianity. In the ancient Greco-Roman world, a woman's value was often tied strictly to her utility, her ability to produce heirs or manage a household. Christianity, however, introduced the concept of imago Dei, that both male and female are created in the image of God. This created a profound philosophical paradox. While institutionalized hierarchies were certainly present, the theological framework insisted on an ontological equality that didn't exist in the pagan philosophies of the time. Yet, as we moved through the Enlightenment and into the modern era, that theological basis began to erode, replaced by the secular logic of individualism. If we view history through the lens of thinkers like John Locke or Jean-Jacques Rousseau, we see a focus on the social contract. Feminism, in its first wave, was arguably an extension of this, arguing that the social contract should be universal, not exclusive. It was about legal and political participation. But modern, fourth-wave feminism has pivoted. It's no longer just about the contract, it's about the deconstruction of the categories themselves. Think of it like this. The traditional role was often defined by the complementarity of the sexes, the idea that men and women had distinct, specialized roles that, when combined, created a stable societal unit. This was the bedrock of Western civilization for centuries. Philosophers like G.K. Chesterton argued that this wasn't a suppression of women, but a recognition of their unique power, that the domestic sphere was not a prison, but the very place where the culture's future, the next generation, was formed. Then enters the modern critique, the idea that this complementarity is actually a social construct designed to keep women in a subordinate position. This is where we see the clash between historical tradition and contemporary advocacy. Today's feminism often advocates for a blank slate theory, the idea that gender roles are merely performance or socialization. If you remove the performance of femininity, the logic goes, you achieve true equality. But here is where the philosophy gets sticky. By pushing for a model where women must act, produce, and compete identically to men to be considered equal, are we actually liberating women, or are we just forcing them into a masculine framework of value? If a society only values what can be measured in a market, then it inevitably devalues the very things that aren't market-driven: the labor of care, the nurturing of children, and the maintenance of the home. Let's do a quick hypothetical. Imagine two architects. One spends their life building a skyscraper that will stand for 50 years, and the other spends their life building a human soul, teaching, guiding, and forming the character of a person who will exist for eternity. In a modern capitalist society, we know which one gets the corporate bonus and the status. But historically, the latter was viewed as the foundational pillar of the civilization. When modern feminism treats the domestic sphere as an obstacle to equality, it inadvertently agrees with the very materialism it claims to be fighting. It says, the only way to be valuable is to be like the men who are dominating the public sphere. We see this tension play out in theology too. Many modern advocates for Christian feminism try to reconcile the two by arguing that the church should abandon traditional structures to match modern social norms. But the historical counter-argument is that the church, at its best, provided a sanctuary for the dignity of women outside of the harsh demands of the marketplace. So, what is the role of a woman? Is it to compete in the race, or to define the terms of the race? We have inherited a world that is obsessed with autonomy, the idea that I am my own master, and any role assigned by biology or tradition is a violation of my will. But this ignores the reality that human beings are inherently relational, not just individual nodes of production. The shift we've seen in the last 100 years is a shift from freedom to act according to one's nature, to freedom from any expectation, category, or role. And while that sounds liberating in a pamphlet, in practice, it leaves us untethered. It leaves us in a society where the role of a woman is constantly in flux, determined only by the latest cultural trend. The Western tradition was never about the absence of power, it was about the direction of power. Perhaps the question isn't whether women should be leaders or homemakers, but why we have built a society that makes it impossible to be both, or to value one without feeling the need to apologize for it. We've traded a world of specialized roles for a world of generic autonomy, and we're just now starting to see the cracks in that foundation. Next time you see a headline demanding we dismantle traditional structures, ask yourself, what is being built in their place, and is it a structure that actually values human beings, or just their economic output? Thank you for listening. The sources and philosophical texts I used to build this argument will be available for you to check out.